In 1964, a spy thriller strapped Sean Connery to a table, aimed a laser at his body, and created the most iconic villain moment in cinema history. But behind that sleek Aston Martin and gold-painted corpse lies a production where the star hated his role. The gadgets were actually real, and a singer nearly died recording the theme song. From a villain's plan nobody understood to a bowler hat that became a deadly weapon, Goldfinger hid secrets that transformed James Bond from movie character into global phenomenon. Stick around, because some of these facts will completely rewrite how you see the film that set the standard every spy movie still chases. Number 1. The laser scene that defined Bond.
Do you expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
This laser table moment became the most iconic Bond scene ever and set the standard for villain theatrics. Goldfinger has Bond helpless, strapped to a table, watching a laser beam slowly crawl toward him. It's pure psychological torture. Here's what most people don't know. This scene wasn't in Ian Fleming's original novel. Fleming used a circular saw. The filmmakers replaced it with a laser to give the movie a futuristic, high-tech edge. It worked beyond anyone's wildest expectations. That one creative change defined what Bond villains should be: elegant, theatrical, and obsessed with showing off their superiority before killing their enemies. Every Bond film since has chased that same energy. Number 2. The car that changed movie cars forever. Before Goldfinger, movie cars were just transportation. After the Aston Martin DB5, cars became stars in their own right. This wasn't just a vehicle. It was a character, packed with gadgets, style, and attitude. The DB5 had everything: machine guns hidden behind the headlights, a bulletproof shield, rotating license plates, tire slashers, and that legendary ejector seat. Audiences had never seen anything like it. The car became as iconic as Bond himself. Arguably more iconic. To this day, when people think James Bond, they picture the DB5. One car in one film changed how Hollywood thought about vehicles forever. They weren't just props anymore. They were weapons, personalities, marketing gold. Number 3. The Goldfinger golf scene was personal. That early golf match between Bond and Goldfinger wasn't just a classy opener. It was psychological warfare disguised as a gentleman's game. Instead of winning through skill alone, Bond exposes Goldfinger's cheating and turns it against him. He doesn't overpower his enemy, he outthinks him. This scene was one of the first times the Bond series showed 007 as a strategist, not just an action hero. He's observing, calculating, manipulating. It's subtle character work that many fans didn't consciously notice but always remembered. The golf match established that Bond wins with his brain as much as his fists, a trait that separated him from every other action hero of the era. Brains, charm, and ruthlessness. That's the formula, and it started here. Number 4. Sean Connery was exhausted. By the time Goldfinger started filming in 1964, Sean Connery was already tired of playing James Bond. He'd done Dr. No and From Russia with Love back-to-back, and the role was consuming his life. He felt typecast, trapped, and undervalued. So he did what any smart actor would do. He demanded significantly higher pay and better working conditions. Ironically, his performance in Goldfinger is often considered his best Bond work. Maybe the exhaustion added edge to his portrayal. Maybe fighting for respect behind the scenes made him sharper on screen. Whatever the reason, Connery delivered a Bond who's confident, dangerous, and effortlessly cool, even while he was privately counting the days until he could escape the role. That tension created magic. Number 5. Most of the car gadgets were real. Those gadgets on the Aston Martin DB5, they weren't special effects or movie magic. Most of them were actually engineered and built for the film. The ejector seat really worked. The machine guns could actually fire. The rotating license plates actually rotated. Effects supervisor John Steers created functional versions of nearly every gadget you see on screen. Why go to all that trouble? Because director Guy Hamilton wanted the car to feel real, tangible, dangerous. He knew audiences could tell the difference between practical effects and cheap tricks. So, they built the real thing. The result? The DB5 didn't just look cool, it felt authentic. That authenticity is why the car remains legendary 60 years later. Real engineering, real creativity, real movie history. Number 6. The DB5 was not a big seller before the film. Here's the irony. Before Goldfinger, the Aston Martin DB5 was a struggling luxury car that barely anyone bought. Aston Martin was a small, financially unstable company trying to compete with Ferrari and Jaguar. The DB5 was beautiful but expensive, and sales were disappointing. Then Goldfinger hit theaters. Overnight, the DB5 became the most desirable car in the world. It became a status symbol, a dream car, an icon. Aston Martin's fortunes changed completely. The film essentially saved the company from obscurity and turned them into a global brand. One movie appearance transformed a struggling product into automotive immortality. That's not product placement. That's movie magic creating real-world economic impact. Number 7. Goldfinger's plan was brilliant. Most people think Goldfinger wanted to steal Fort Knox's gold. That's wrong. His plan was far more clever and diabolical. He wanted to detonate a nuclear device inside Fort Knox to irradiate all the gold, making it radioactive and unusable for decades. With Fort Knox's gold contaminated, Goldfinger's own gold reserves would skyrocket in value. It's economic terrorism, not theft. It's brilliant villainy. Destabilize the global economy to make yourself richer. The plan shows how Bond, villains should think, bigger than robbery, stranger than murder, operating on a scale that threatens entire nations. Many viewers miss this detail because the film moves quickly, but once you understand Goldfinger's real goal, you realize he's one of the smartest villains Bond ever faced. Number 8. Fort Knox wouldn't allow filming. The production wanted to film inside the real Fort Knox gold depository to give the climax authenticity. The U.S. military said absolutely not. Fort Knox was, and still is, one of the most secure facilities in America. No cameras, no film crews, no exceptions. So the production built elaborate sets recreating Fort Knox's interior based on speculation and limited information. The sets were so convincing that audiences assumed they were seeing the real thing. The U.S. military did cooperate with some exterior shots and provided technical advisors, but only under strict conditions. The entire Fort Knox sequence you see on screen is Hollywood craftsmanship, fooling millions of viewers into thinking they're seeing America's most secure vault. Number 9. The gold paint myth. Contrary to popular belief, actress Shirley Eaton did not die from being painted gold for her iconic scene. This myth started immediately after the film's release and persisted for decades. People claimed that covering skin in paint causes death by skin asphyxiation, which is medically false. Your skin doesn't breathe the way lungs do. The myth got so widespread that Eaton spent years publicly correcting it. She's very much alive and found the whole thing absurd, but also slightly amusing. The rumor probably started because the image was so striking and disturbing that audiences wanted to believe something tragic happened. But no, it was just makeup, careful application, and Hollywood illusion, creating one of cinema's most unforgettable images. Number 10. The gold paint was uncomfortable. While the gold paint didn't kill Shirley Eaton, it definitely wasn't pleasant. She had to be painted in carefully controlled sections to avoid any potential health risks. A small patch of skin was always left unpainted as a safety precaution. The entire process took hours under scorching studio lights, and the paint made her skin feel tight, itchy, and claustrophobic. Eaton could only tolerate being fully painted for short periods before needing breaks. The crew worked fast, shooting her scenes efficiently to minimize her discomfort. Despite the difficulty, she never complained publicly. The result was worth it. That image of the gold-painted woman became one of the most iconic shots in film history. Sometimes beauty requires suffering, and Eaton endured it like a professional. Number 11. The theme song nearly didn't happen. Shirley Bassey recording the Goldfinger theme song is the stuff of legend and near disaster. The song's final note is famously powerful, a sustained high note that Bassey had to hold while the orchestra swelled dramatically. During recording, she gave everything she had, hitting that note with maximum force and holding it until the music faded. Then she collapsed. The strain was too much. She literally fainted after finishing the take. Producers rushed to help her, terrified they'd lost their singer. But when they played back the recording, it was perfect. That moment of near-death vocal effort created one of the most iconic theme songs in cinema history. Bassie recovered, and the song became legendary, but it almost didn't happen at all. Number 12. The song set the Bond formula. Goldfinger was the first Bond theme to fully define the sound that every subsequent film would chase. Bold brass, dramatic strings, danger, sex, and sophistication, all packed into 3 minutes. Dr. No and From Russia with Love had memorable music, but Goldfinger locked in the formula. Composer John Barry created a template that's been copied, referenced, and reimagined for 60 years. That bombastic, dramatic sound became synonymous with James Bond. Every composer who's worked on Bond since has had to reckon with what Barry created here. It's the sonic identity of the franchise, and it all started with Shirley Bassey belting out Goldfinger until she passed out. Number 13. Odd Job was a last-minute casting. Harold Sakata, who played the deadly henchman Odd Job, wasn't an actor when he was cast. He was an Olympic silver medalist in weightlifting and a professional wrestler. Director Guy Hamilton saw him and thought, "That's the guy." Sakata had almost no acting experience, but Hamilton didn't care. He wanted physical presence, intimidation, menace. Sakata delivered all of that and more. He barely spoke in the film. Odd Job communicates through grunts, stares, and brutal efficiency. His silence made him more terrifying. Sometimes the best casting decisions aren't about finding trained actors. They're about finding the right person who embodies the character so completely that acting becomes secondary. Sakata was Odd Job. Number 14. Odd Job's hat was deadly. Odd Job's steel-rimmed bowler hat became one of cinema's strangest and most unforgettable weapons. It's absurd on paper, a hat that decapitates people when thrown. But on screen, it's genuinely menacing. The first time you see Odd Job casually toss his hat and slice the head off a stone statue, you realize this guy is a legitimate threat. The hat became iconic precisely because it was weird. Bond villains and henchmen needed signature weapons, signature gimmicks. Odd Job's hat set that standard. It's theatrical, unexpected, and deadly. Everything a Bond weapon should be. Decades later, people still reference the guy with the killer hat, even if they've never seen Goldfinger. Number 15. Bond barely appears for 30 minutes. Here's something that shocked test audiences. James Bond disappears from the story for long stretches in the middle of the film. He's captured, locked up, or off-screen while other characters drive the plot. Forward. For nearly 30 minutes of screen time, 007 is sidelined. Later, Bond films avoided this after audience complaints. People wanted to see Bond in action constantly, not waiting around while villains monologued. But in Goldfinger, the filmmakers were confident enough to let the story breathe, to build tension through Bond's absence. It's a structural choice that wouldn't fly today, but it worked here because the supporting characters, Goldfinger, Odd Job, Pussy Galore, were strong enough to carry scenes without the star. Number 16. This film cemented Bond's image. Tuxedos, gadgets, villains with style, beautiful women, exotic locations, dry wit, Goldfinger locked in the Bond identity audiences still expect today. Earlier films had elements of this formula, but Goldfinger perfected it. This is where the template was set in stone. Every Bond film since has been measured against this standard. Wear a tux, drive a cool car, fight a memorable villain, seduce dangerous women, deliver one-liners while saving the world. Goldfinger proved this formula worked, and the franchise has been mining it ever since. You can trace the entire DNA of James Bond back to this movie. Number 17. It was the first true blockbuster Bond film. Dr. No and From Russia with Love were hits, but Goldfinger crossed into cultural phenomenon territory. It became an event, a sensation, a movie everyone had to see. Lines wrapped around theaters. It played for months. It dominated pop culture conversations in 1964 and beyond. This was the film that proved James Bond wasn't just another spy series. It was a global entertainment empire. Goldfinger's success guaranteed decades of sequels, imitators, parodies, and merchandise. It transformed Bond from popular character to cultural institution. Before Goldfinger, Bond was successful. After Goldfinger, Bond was unstoppable. Number 18. The budget was modest by today's standards. Goldfinger was made for approximately $3 million in 1964. That's roughly $30 million adjusted for inflation. Still still modest by modern blockbuster standards. Yet it earned over $120 million worldwide at the box office, an enormous return on investment that made studio executives ecstatic. The film proved you didn't need massive budgets to create massive spectacle. You needed creativity, smart writing, charismatic actors, and practical ingenuity. Modern Bond films cost $200–300 million. Goldfinger achieved legendary status for a fraction of that, proving that sometimes less money forces better creativity. Constraints breed innovation. Number 19. Critics were divided. When Goldfinger premiered, critics were split. Some praised it as sophisticated entertainment. Others called it ridiculous, campy, too silly to take seriously. They complained about the over-the-top plot, the absurd gadgets, the cartoonish villains. They thought audiences would tire of this kind of escapism. Audiences didn't care. They loved it. They wanted escapism, spectacle, fun. Critics debating whether Bond was serious cinema missed the point entirely. People wanted to be entertained, and Goldfinger delivered that in spades. The divide between critical opinion and popular reception proved that sometimes the audience knows better than the experts. Goldfinger wasn't trying to win awards. It was trying to thrill people. Mission accomplished. Number 20. Goldfinger is still the measuring stick. Every Bond film since 1964 has been compared to Goldfinger. Directors, producers, actors, they all reference it. Are we living up to Goldfinger? It's the gold standard, the template, the measuring stick for success. Many fans still argue it's never been topped. Why? Because it perfected the formula before the formula got stale. It had freshness, energy, creativity, and risk-taking that later films could only imitate. Connery at his peak, a brilliant villain, iconic moments, a perfect theme song. Goldfinger wasn't just a great Bond film, it was the Bond film that defined what greatness looked like. 60 years later, it still holds up. That's not nostalgia, that's timeless filmmaking. Goldfinger didn't just give us one iconic scene, it gave us the blueprint for every spy thriller that followed. If you loved uncovering these secrets, hit subscribe for more classic movie deep dives. Now, go watch that laser scene again and appreciate the genius behind it.